Discover 4 life-changing principles to transform anger into peace, the incredible tale of the Boo. In the quiet town of Maplewood, where oak trees embrace family-run businesses like a warm hug, James found solace in the few things that mattered. A 42-year-old mechanic, he was known as the go-to guy for car troubles, his hands often stained with grease but his heart full of pride. Yet, as the summer sun beat down on his shop, the weight of economic hardship piled on him like a flat tire, heavy and relentless. Long hours clocked away, but when he returned home, an oppressive silence greeted him. His wife, Sarah, worried yet supportive, seemed distant too, caught in their son Ethan's storm. Ethan. A 14-year-old ball of fury and rebellion. Long gone was the boy who admired his father. Now, anger brewed in him like a summer thunderstorm. The basketball team cut him, and the invisible walls of neglect seemed too high for him to breach. Instead of finding comfort in James, he threw himself into a group of friends who thrived on discontent, their laughter sometimes chilling like winter winds. Each day, his frustrations flared brighter, leading to a fateful night when tempers boiled over, and chaos erupted in town. Desperation clawed at James as he watched his son drift farther away, tangled in youth's dark side. He remembered Ray, a retired veteran who once swept through life like a breeze, fixing engines and sharing stories. Perhaps Ray could be the bridge. Meeting in a dimly lit garage, full of rust and memories, sparks flew as they forged a bond over gears and tools. When they shared their struggles and laughter, hope flickered inside James. Could Ray steer Ethan onto a better path? But then the protests began. Voices collided in cries for justice, and the line between right and wrong blurred against the backdrop of an ever-changing world. James's heart raced as he paced his shop, every part of him torn. How could he protect his son from the tempest outside while also urging him to stand for change? Tensions in their home swelled, their conversations turned to shouting matches, and James felt the family they built inching toward a crack that could break them. Then came that moment. The day of the protest. In the midst of chaos, James stood firm, a beacon in the storm, urging unity and change, his words filled with fire and love. Ethan watched from a distance, feeling something shift within him. Both father and son felt the swell of their worlds collide, their hearts grappling with something profound. Suddenly, as the crowd moved, chaos rained down like shards on glass. The protest exploded, threatening their burgeoning connection and immersing them in a complexity neither could have prepared for. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As the dust settled and both sides breathed deeply, James cradled his wounded heart, uncertainty swirling around him. Could he help Ethan channel his anger into a positive force, or had they crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed? Silence enveloped them, each lost in their thoughts, facing the echoes of their choices. The storm might have just begun, leaving a lingering question hanging in the air: would their bond withstand the wrath of change they had channeled together? As they stood there, the crowd finally beginning to disperse, the tension in the air felt almost palpable. James's heart raced. He watched Ethan, his son's chest heaving with each deep breath, a mix of adrenaline and confusion. The chaotic scene around them was fading into a dull roar, but the tumult of emotions within was far from over. "Ethan!" James called out, his voice urgently cutting through the remnants of chaos. The boy turned slowly, his expression a mix of defiance and hurt. It was as if the spark of rebellion flickered in his eyes, battling with the vulnerability that sat just beneath the surface. "What do you want?" Ethan shot back, his tone sharper than he intended. "Let us talk," James said softly, stepping forward, hoping to bridge the widening chasm between them. When Ethan didn't move, James continued, please. Just, let us sit in the truck. Reluctantly, Ethan followed his father to the battered old pickup. The interior smelled like oil and the faint sweetness of worn leather. James slid into the driver's seat, while Ethan took hesitant refuge in the passenger seat. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the sound of distant shouting still echoing from the streets, a reminder of the day's chaos. "Listen, I know things are messed up right now," James began, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "But what you're feeling, it matters, Ethan. Your anger, it's real. But you don't want it to consume you. You know that, right?" Ethan's gaze was fixed on the dashboard, his mind racing. "You don't get it, Dad. No one does. They just keep pushing us down. When do we get to stand up?" James felt his chest tighten. "You can fight back without losing who you are. I've seen it happen. You can use that anger to build something, not just tear things down." The words tumbled forward, desperate for his son to grasp their meaning. At that moment, Ethan's defenses faltered, and a flicker of something resembling understanding crossed his face. "Like you did today? You just stood there?" "Yes, but I stood for something." James leaned forward, his heart spilling out, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your future is worth standing for, and it's not just about being angry." The air shifted, a moment of clarity weaving through the haze surrounding them. As Ethan looked into his father's eyes, James saw something uncoiling, a glimmer of hope mixed with uncertainty. "What if I just don't know how?" Ethan whispered, the vulnerability surfacing at last. "I can help you find that way," James replied, determination pulling him closer to the edge of honesty. "Let us figure it out together. We can talk to Ray. He's been through so much. Maybe he can help." Ethan's silence draped over them like a blanket. A slow contemplative moment weighed against years of encroaching distance. James could feel the walls beginning to crack, but did he truly know how to reach his son? "I don't know if that'll help," Ethan finally said, but there was a hint of willingness woven through his reluctance. "Let us try," James encouraged, his voice steady, fueled by a newfound sense of urgency. "We owe it to ourselves, don't we?" Ethan gazed out the window, as if contemplating the road ahead. The sky had turned a deep orange, shadows stretching across Maplewood. Each stretching shadow felt like a reminder of the burdens they carried. And yet, for the first time in months, an ember of hope ignited between them. A connection reignited, fragile yet fierce. As father and son sat quietly, James couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning. Just as the jammed gears in a machine needed oil, they needed to lubricate their relationship, to smooth over the rough edges and rediscover the bond buried beneath layers of conflict. Little did James know, a surprise confrontation awaited them. One that would test everything they were trying to rebuild. What would this new challenge reveal about their journey and what they truly stood for? The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting shadows that danced across the seats of the truck. James could feel the weight of silence pressing down, but he sensed something shifting within Ethan. It was a quiet moment, yet it felt monumental, like a small spark that could ignite a flame. "Remember the last time we talked about Ray?" James asked. His voice was soft, trying to keep the atmosphere tender. "He has been through so much. Maybe you'll find something in his story that resonates with you." Ethan still stared out the window, the lines of his father's face reflected in his thoughts. "Maybe," he murmured, though he didn't give James a glance. The air was heavy with uncertainty as James mulled over his next words. How could he convey to Ethan the importance of building bridges instead of walls? "I know it's hard to see a way out, especially when you feel stuck," but he hesitated, searching for the right way to frame his thoughts. "Sometimes change starts with listening. Just listening." Ethan turned sharply, a flicker of annoyance crossing his features. "So, I should just sit back and let the world walk all over me? Let people think they can just ignore us?" The heat in his voice matched the stubborn tilt of his chin. "No. It's not about being passive, it's about being strategic, James countered, his heart rate quickening. We need to understand what is going on around us to see the bigger picture. That's how we get our voices heard without losing ourselves in the noise. A moment of quiet enveloped them again. The distant sounds of the crowd started to fade, as if their world shrank down to just the two of them in that truck. Ethan turned to face James now, his eyes wide, still brimming with a cocktail of emotions: anger, pain, confusion, but also something softer, more vulnerable. Sometimes, Dad, I feel so alone in all this, Ethan confessed, his voice barely a whisper. James leaned in closer, empathy washing over him. You're not alone. We face this together. That's what family is, right? We help each other through the tough parts, even the parts that make us want to scream. Ethan's walls trembled ever so slightly. It's just. I feel like if I calm down, then people will keep treating me the same way. Like I need to be mad to be heard. James understood the struggle. The desperation. You have every right to be angry. But don't let that anger drown you, son. You're so much more than just your rage. We can harness it, channel it into something that creates change instead of chaos. He hoped the pride in his heart shone through. I believe in you. Ethan's expression softened a little. What if I slip up? What if I mess it all up? James felt his own vulnerability rise. We all slip up, Ethan. It's part of being human. It's how we respond to those stumbles that defines who we are. We can learn together. I'll be right beside you. The tension began to lift, but before James could fully revel in the moment, the passing headlights of a car illuminated the truck's interior. As they both turned to squint at the glare, they heard the unmistakable sound of approaching footsteps. James's heart sank. He instinctively reached for the door handle, peering through the windshield to see figures approaching in the dimming light. He recognized one of them from the crowd earlier, a frown etched on his face. Ethan, he whispered urgently, a chill creeping into his voice. I think we're about to have our first test. Ethan's eyes revealed a swirl of emotions: fear, concern, defiance. Could this be the very confrontation they had been trying to avoid, or a chance to test what they had just begun to learn? As the figures moved closer, the air around them thickened again. What lay ahead would determine not just the direction of their night, but the course of their relationship too. The footsteps drew nearer, the gravel crunching under heavy boots. Ethan's breath quickened. He shifted nervously in his seat, eyes wide as the shadows of the approaching figures grew clearer. Anxiety wrapped around him like a cold fog. What do we do? He whispered, glancing wide-eyed at James. James steadied his voice, refusing to let panic seep in. Stay calm. We'll take this one step at a time. Just remember what we talked about: listening, understanding. The figures finally came into view, 3 of them, their silhouettes sharply defined against the last light of dusk. The one in front was the same guy Ethan had noticed earlier, scowling harder than ever. Hey, you two, he called out, his tone dripping with challenge. Thought we wouldn't find you hiding here? James opened the door ever so slightly, just enough for them to register that they were not backing down. The tension felt like a pulled rubber band, ready to snap. We're not hiding, James replied, his voice steady but firm. What do you want? The leader stepped closer, a smirk twisting across his lips. Just wanted to see how the big guy and his little sidekick were coping. Heard you've been stirring things up. Thought we'd put the rumors to the test. Ethan felt the heat rise from his gut, ready to ignite the bubbling anger within him. But James subtly placed a hand on his arm, keeping him grounded. We're just trying to have a conversation, James said, his gaze unflinching. No need for hostility. As soon as the words left his lips, the smirk fell from the leader's face, replaced by a flash of irritation. Conversation? Is that what you call trying to take control? Ethan's heart raced, feeling the words claw at his throat. This was the moment they had been preparing for, but it felt so fragile, like a delicate flower in a storm. "We just want a chance to be heard," he said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "You don't have to bully us to make your point." The leader sneered, an edge of amusement in his tone. "Heard? You think anyone wants to listen to a couple of losers? You think that rage of yours is going to get you somewhere?" Ethan could feel the anger bubbling, but he hesitated. This was what they had talked about. Listening. Learning. Instead of firing back, he searched for a different way to engage. "Maybe it doesn't have to be like this. We're all in the same community. We're tired of fighting." The leader paused, the challenge turning into a flicker of confusion. James saw the opening. "Maybe if we all listened a little more, we'd find common ground. Nobody wins by tearing each other down." The air was thick with unsaid words, waiting. The other two figures shifted, unsure, looking to their leader. A moment stretched out, fragile yet full of possibility. "What do you know about common ground?" The leader finally snapped, frustration colored in his voice. For a heartbeat, everything seemed frozen, the world narrowed down to that question. Ethan felt the weight of eyes upon him, a chance to prove he was more than his anger. "I know we all want to be recognized. We all want to feel safe. No one wants to wake up scared." James nodded, approvingly but silently urging Ethan to hold strong. This wasn't just about defending themselves, it was about creating a shift, a new understanding. The leader squinted at Ethan, calculating, his expression wavering. "Just remember, showing weakness when you points." Ethan held his breath, feeling the precariousness of the moment. Was this really going to change anything? As the group lingered just a second longer, James discreetly tapped Ethan's arm, drawing his attention. "This isn't the end," he whispered. "Stay open." With that, the figures began to retreat, taking their lingering animosity with them. Ethan's heart pounded in his ears. Had he really just spoken up? The weight of the moment enveloped him, leaving him trembling, exhilarated yet uncertain. "What happens now?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling as he turned back to James. James smiled softly, wearing a mix of pride and concern. "Now we rebuild. We keep pushing for understanding. Even when it feels daunting." Ethan looked out at the retreating figures. He sensed that this was just the beginning, yet it felt like the ground had shifted beneath them. Would it be enough to crack the wall between them? As silence fell over the truck, the night air felt pregnant with possibilities. Just then, the distant sounds of laughter resonated through the evening, a reminder that life went on, always changing, always unpredictable. What they didn't know was that the real test was still waiting just around the corner, one that would call everything they had just learned into question. Ethan's heart raced as the laughter faded into the night, replaced by a quiet buzzing in his ears. The release of tension felt almost surreal, like waking from a long nightmare into a world of muted colors. He still could hardly believe he had stood up to the leader, but it had cost him dearly. Doubts snaked through his mind, whispering cruel accusations. What if he had said the wrong thing? What if this made things worse? James was scanning the horizon, his face cloaked in a thoughtful frown. "You okay?" he asked, breaking Ethan's spiral. Ethan nodded despite the turmoil inside. "Yeah, just thinking." "Good," James replied, his voice firm. "Keep thinking. Reflect on what we did today. It's a start, but now we need to channel that into something positive." Something positive. The words swirled around Ethan as if they had a life of their own. He felt burdensome uncertainty shift in his chest. How? How could they turn confrontation into something meaningful? They climbed back into the cab of the truck. The engine coughed and roared to life, its familiar growl grounding Ethan as he turned his focus toward the road ahead. With night closing in, headlights flickered in the distance while the shadows danced across the asphalt. The stark reality of their situation settled back in. You really think they'll listen? That any of this matters? It has to, James replied. You brought something to the table today, something genuine. We've seen what happens when we react out of anger. Now is the time to act with purpose. As they drove, Ethan wrestled with thoughts of their next moves. Could he really change the dynamic? The flickering doubt in the back of his mind threatened to swallow him whole, yet there was a whisper barely audible but hopeful, nudging him forward. Let us think of ways to engage them. Maybe organize a meeting? Ethan ventured, his voice barely above a whisper. James looked at him, his eyes brightening. That's the spirit. A safe space for everyone to express their fears and frustrations. A chance to actually listen. We could even invite some of the folks they respect. If they see we are trying, it could soften their approach. Ethan felt a spark ignite. With toil, a vision formed. They could stop the cycle of anger. It was crazy and ambitious, but life was often that way, wasn't it? What if we made it a community event? Games, food, open dialogues show that we're all in this together. Perfect, James grinned, excitement bubbling in his voice. We can ask around, bring in anyone who wants to help. I mean, who doesn't love tacos and a chance to talk? Ethan laughed, the sound warming him. There was something beautiful in the absurd combining vulnerability with festivity. What if laughter mingled with discussion and transformed fear into understanding? As he turned a corner, Ethan caught sight of the park just ahead. It was almost empty yet held memories of laughter and warmth. The idea of reclaiming that felt like pulling at a tether to a brighter future. We should start planning right now. Maybe even set up a time for the meeting? Absolutely, James agreed. The sooner, the better. We're creating a bridge, Ethan. And I know it'll be bumpy at first, but it's worth it for peace. As they stepped out of the truck, something in the air shifted. The laughter grew louder again, drifting softly toward them like a promise. They began walking toward the park, side by side, ready to stake their claim in the future they envisioned. But just as they got close, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, a figure they thought they'd left behind. The air thickened, uncertainty rising like fog on a winter morning. What makes you think you can invite the community to listen to you? The leader's voice cut through the tranquility, sharper than ever. Ethan exchanged a glance with James. The challenge was not over. This was just the beginning. They were on the brink of change, but would they hold their ground? Would they find the strength to stand firm against the dark? Ethan's heart raced anew, adrenaline coursing through him as he took a cautious step forward, forcing himself to meet the leader's gaze. The confident smirk on the man's face reminded him of all the reasons to be afraid. He darted a glance at James, who was standing resolutely by his side, fists clenched but also ready to listen. Because we want to change things, Ethan replied, the words spilling out slightly shakily. We want to create an opportunity for everyone to speak without fear. Just like you. The leader's smirk faded, replaced by a frown that deepened the creases in his forehead. You think that crowd will listen to you? You think your little plan is going to work? You don't know them like I do. Ethan felt a surge of defiance. He had no time for doubt, not now. Maybe you don't know them as well as you think. They aren't just your followers, they're our neighbors, our friends. They've been hurting too. The leader crossed his arms, skepticism etched across his face. So you plan to make them sit around a table and talk? Yes, James interjected, his voice steady. We don't want to just talk, we want to engage. Games, food, real conversations, something different. We'll invite people to share their stories. The leader let out a low, derisive laugh. You think they'll want to share? Why should they trust you? Because we trust them, Ethan shot back, a new resolve steeling his spine. They deserve a place to express their frustrations without it turning into a fight. We want to listen, to understand. Don't you see how much they need this? For a moment, silence enveloped them, a thick blanket of tension that choked out any surrounding noise. Ethan felt hope flicker within him, battling against the chill of uncertainty. James leaned closer, shifting the focus back on the leader. You could lead the way. You could take this chance to be part of something transformative. Show them that there's more than just anger. You could unite us. The leader's eyes narrowed, wrestling with a decision. A flicker of something shifted behind his steely demeanor, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. And what if I refuse? Then maybe we do it anyway, Ethan said, surprising himself with the boldness of his own words. You could stand by your old ways, or join us and show the community it's ready to change. The air felt electric, pregnant with the weight of their exchange. Ethan held his breath, searching for a crack in the man's determination. He knew how hard this was, how terrifying it felt to stand tall against the familiar. As the silence stretched, a shadow of doubt returned. Was he pushing too hard? Could they really spark something new in a world filled with anger? What's it going to take for you to reach out to them? He pressed, voice low but steady. The leader stared, contemplating the tension that hung thick between them. You really think this will work? Yes, Ethan affirmed, a faint tremor of determination lighting his voice. We have to believe it can or else it never will. For a moment, the leader appeared almost vulnerable, caught in a labyrinth of emotions. And then, just like that, cold steel replaced the flicker of warmth. Don't think it'll be that easy, Ethan, he said, his tone sharp again. I'll let you make your little event, but know this, it won't change anything. Ethan felt the wind shift, a chill running up his spine. They had thrown the gauntlet down, and uncertainty loomed like thunder in the distance. Would their plan for peace stand strong? Would the community rally around their cause? As the leader withdrew into the shadows, a knot of urgency twisted in Ethan's gut. This was just the beginning, and the risk of failure felt heavier than he expected. We need to prepare, James muttered, his brow creased in concern. Let us not waste any time. As they walked deeper into the park, determination mingled with fear. What if they failed? What if this was another fruitless attempt at change? Ethan swallowed hard, pushing the doubts aside. They would not let fear dictate their course. Their vision was larger than all that. But just before they turned the corner, another voice pierced the night, one he hadn't expected to hear. The voice of someone they both knew, someone who would shake the foundation of everything they believed they could achieve. Ethan. James. Wait up. The unexpected voice hit them like a jolt. They turned to see Mia, an old friend, sprinting towards them. Her hair whipped around her face, and her expression was a mix of urgency and determination. Ethan's stomach twisted with apprehension. Mia had always been a firebrand, someone unafraid to speak her mind, but tonight she looked different, driven by something deeper. Mia, what are you doing here? James asked, concern washing over him. You shouldn't be out alone in a place like this. I know, but I couldn't just sit back and watch you two, Mia said, breathless. I heard what went down with the leader. I need to know more. I want to help. Ethan's heart raced again, but this time it was not just frustration. It was a flicker of hope igniting inside him. You really want to help? It's going to be a challenge. It could get messy. Messy? That's the only way anything ever changes, she replied fiercely. If people are afraid to speak up, nothing will ever get better. And if we keep ignoring the issues, it'll only get worse. James nodded, glancing at Ethan. She's right. We need all the support we can get. But it's not just about volume, it's about healing, connecting. Mia took a step forward, eyes sparkling with conviction. We have to make them see there's more power in unity than in anger. We need to reach out to the community first. We can gather stories and ideas, bring them into this. Ethan felt the weight of their mission lift, just a little. You really believe in this, don't you? More than anything, Mia affirmed, her voice steady. We need a place where people can come together, talk openly. We can hold that event and turn it into something bigger like a movement. We can introduce workshops, sharing circles. Have you thought this through? James interrupted. This isn't just about plans, it's about real emotions, real conflicts. What if someone gets hurt? Mia flashed a brave smile, which could have been mistaken for bravado. Then we will be there to catch them. It won't be easy, but we can't keep letting fear win. The community is stronger than this division, all we have to do is remind them. Ethan felt his chest tighten. What if we fail? What if we end up making everything worse? The doubt lingered in the air like a dark cloud, but Mia took a step toward Ethan and placed a hand on his shoulder. And what if we succeed? What if we give people the space they need to heal? Those stories, they have the power to break walls. It's worth the risk. He could see the fire in her eyes, the passion behind her words. He wanted to believe. Ethan inhaled deeply, the fresh air filling his lungs as he anchored himself in the moment. Okay, let us do this, he said, his voice steady. But we have to be wise about it. We'll need a plan, a solid one. Of course, Mia replied, her smile widening. Let us organize a meeting. We can reach out to people who care, build a coalition. As they turned to walk through the darkening park, the sense of direction sharpened in Ethan. He felt lighter, hope coursing through him again, but a new fear crept into his mind, a fear of what others might think. Just then, a distinctive sound echoed through the park, a loud shout mingling with laughter not far away. The unmistakable voices of a group he recognized, the same people who had cast their anger against the leader earlier. Might they ruin what he and his friends were trying to build even before it got started? Wait, that sounds like them. Should we check it out? James suggested cautiously, glancing back at Ethan and Mia. Ethan's heart raced at the thought of confrontation, but also at the prospect of confronting those fears head-on. Let us go see. We can't be afraid of them forever, Ethan said, resolute. As they approached, he realized this might be the moment that changes everything. Would their journey unite the community or push them further apart? Ethan's heart pounded as they moved closer to the noise, a mixture of hope and dread swirling in his chest. Would this be their moment of truth or their moment of failure? As they drew nearer to the commotion, the silhouettes of the familiar faces came into view beneath the flickering streetlights. A group of people was gathered in a semicircle, their animated voices filled with a mix of anger and exhilaration. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. This was the very crowd that had been so vocal against the leader, and their intensity was palpable. Stay close, James whispered, instinctively close to Mia and Ethan. They stepped into the light, where laughter echoed harshly against the seriousness that had just permeated their conversation. Ethan's breath quickened as he recognized Mike, the loudest of the group. He was gesticulating wildly, eyes lit up with fervor. This isn't just a battle for change, it's a fight for our lives. Mike shouted, his voice carrying authority and urgency. The crowd cheered, raising their fists. Ethan's heart sank. He could already feel the division rising. This wasn't just anger, it was a cacophony of pain, frustration, and a hunger for something better. Yet he didn't want that, he wanted to build bridges, not walls. Mia pressed her lips together, her eyes scanning the crowd. This isn't how we're going to heal them, we need to show them a different way, she murmured, more to herself than to Ethan. Maybe this is too much, Ethan suggested, his doubt clawing at him. What if they reject us? What if they see us as part of the problem? No, Mia said firmly as she tucked her hair behind her ear. We have to at least try. She stepped forward, the very embodiment of the courageous spirit she exuded earlier. Hey, everyone. Can we talk? The crowd turned as one, a wave of curious expressions hit them. Mike raised an eyebrow, surprised at the intruders. What's this? A pair of wannabes thinking they can save us? He laughed, a harsh and cruel sound. Ethan's stomach twisted, but Mia stood her ground. We're not here to save anyone. We're here to create a space where we can share our stories, our pain, and find the healing that everyone needs. We can't keep fighting each other. We need to unite. Unite? Mike scoffed while the crowd murmured. How does that work? We've been crushed under their boot for too long. And you want us to hug it out? The disbelief in his voice stung, but it fueled Mia's fire. We're not suggesting hugs. We're suggesting conversation. A chance for everyone to be heard. We have to talk about our anger before we can find peace. Suddenly, the murmur grew louder as some members of the crowd exchanged glances. A woman stepped out from the sidelines. Ethan recognized her as Sarah, someone he once quietly admired for her insight. Maybe she's right? We can't keep battling this way forever. We're all suffering, are you kidding me? Mike spat back, anger flaring. You think this crowd is going to sit around in a circle and sing Kumbaya? We need action. As Ethan watched the emotional tug-of-war unfold before him, fear and hope intertwined like vines wrapping around his heart. This was the moment where everything could shift. If they could just break through the chaos, perhaps they could lead to something better. But before he could even gather his thoughts, another voice spoke up. Yeah, but we can't keep hurting each other either. The crowd quieted. Ethan held his breath, witnessing this pivoting moment. Could this be the breakthrough they needed? Let us give Mia's idea a shot, the woman urged, looking at the others with determination. We can try to talk, can't we? Fine. Mike replied, begrudgingly. But if it goes south, I'm blaming you. Ethan exhaled, feeling a collective breath of air shift among the people. Perhaps they could turn anger into something productive. Perhaps this could be a movement toward healing. But deep down, doubt lingered as a shadow with every step they took. Could they really change hearts hardened by so much pain? As the group began to settle into an uneasy truce, Ethan's mind raced. Where would this lead? What if they failed terribly? Just as he began to feel a semblance of hope, he heard a rustling nearby. A figure lurked in the shadows, watching intently as the conversation unfolded. Ethan's pulse quickened. Who was it, and what did they want? This could turn everything upside down again. Ethan's eyes darted toward the edge of the crowd. The shadowy figure stepped closer, his heart beating like a drum in his chest. The person lingered just beyond the warm glow of the streetlight, cloaked in darkness, their features obscured. Who's there? Mia called out, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The movement in the shadows seemed to startle the crowd, pulling their attention away from the brewing discussion. A man, tall with scruffy hair and a coat that looked too big, emerged into the light. He looked rough around the edges, but there was something deeply familiar in his gaze. It was Jake, a former member of the very community that had been torn apart. Ethan felt a rush of recognition, mixed with disbelief. Jake had once been a voice of reason, one that had tried to foster understanding before he disappeared from their lives. Jake! Someone shouted from the crowd, and murmurs of surprise rippled through the gathering. I've been watching. Jake started, his voice shaky yet resolute. I wanted to see if there was still hope here. His eyes softened as he scanned the group, landing on Mia and Ethan. I didn't think it was possible, but I see you still care. What was Jake doing back? The crowd went silent, every person hanging on his words. The very air felt thick with expectation. I know what it's like to feel lost, to lash out. I've been there. He shifted his weight, pain in his eyes. But I also know that anger is blinding. It kept me from seeing the truth. We need each other. We need to listen. Mia stepped closer to him, her expression open. Then join us. Help us talk about this pain. It's time to share our stories. Jake hesitated, his shoulders tense. I'm not sure I belong here anymore. I've made too many mistakes, but you've also learned, Mia interjected, her passion igniting the air around them. Your voice matters. You can show them that healing isn't weakness, it's strength. Mike scoffed, crossing his arms. What does he know? You think he's going to save us? But his voice lacked the confidence it had moments ago. Maybe the question isn't about who can save us, Sarah chimed in, her eyes now focused on Jake. Maybe it's about how we can all save each other. Ethan felt the pulse in the air shift again. The crowd was holding its breath, caught in a fragile moment of hope. Could this truly be a turning point? But as if sensing the rising tension, the shadows shifted again, a sudden figure darting away from the scene, disappearing into the night. A collective gasp rippled through the group. What was that? Someone called out, and eyes darted back to the surrounding streets. Ethan's sense of dread returned. The unexpected interruption felt like bad news lurking just around the corner. What if they were being watched? What if the tension outside was about to spill back in? Jake, seeing the worry on their faces, stepped into the circle, raising his hands. Let us not let fear take over. Instead, let us confront whatever is out there together. Mia nodded, determination shining in her eyes. But we can't do it alone. We need every voice in this fight. Ethan's heart raced with every half-formed thought whirling in his mind. They were on the brink of something transformative, yet, just beyond that light, a threat lingered, reminding them that the battle was far from over. As the group began to rally around Jake, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their most significant challenge was just beginning. Who had been watching? And would they be the spark that reignited the very anger they were trying to dissolve? The shadows loomed larger, and Ethan knew they wouldn't find peace in the light without confronting the dangers they faced in the dark. The night was thick with tension, the air electric as every eye turned towards the shadows that threatened their moment of connection. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach, heart racing with unease. Just as they had begun to grasp the thread of unity, the prospect of danger loomed ominously. Jake stood at the forefront, his voice steady. We won't let fear define us. If someone is out there, we stand together. The crowd hesitated for a moment, then surged closer, drawn into the warmth of his determination. Ethan's thoughts raced. This was the pivotal moment they had fought for, a chance to unite against the darkness that was trying to divide them. If we want to change things, we need to be aware of the challenges, he said, feeling emboldened by Jake's presence. We need to show that we're resilient, that we won't back down. Mia stepped forward, echoing the fire in Jake's words. Yes. If we can bring our stories to the forefront, it will not only empower us but also ignite the courage in others. She turned to the crowd, her eyes sparkling with passion. Together, we can confirm that our anger is valid, and we can use it as a stepping stone towards understanding instead of destruction. That's what we're trying to create. Ethan added, feeling the energy lift around him. A space where our voices explode with purpose instead of conflict, where anger transforms into action. A ripple of conviction passed through the crowd, and the earlier divide began to dissolve. Even Mike's expression softened just a fraction, contemplation replacing resistance. But before they could bask in this momentum, the noise from the shadows intensified, a sound like footsteps crunching around them. An uneasy silence thickened as they realized other figures lurked just beyond the reach of their light. Ethan stole a glance toward Jake, who glanced back with an understanding nod, bolstering Ethan's resolve. Listen, Jake said, pulling on the collective strength of the group. Let us confront this together. If they mean harm, shall we show them that we are stronger in unity than in fear? Yes. Someone shouted from the back, and an unexpected wave of enthusiasm spread through those present. Let me handle this, Ethan said, stepping forward, feeling the warmth of solidarity behind him. The shadows began to shift, silhouettes clearing just enough to reveal a small group of youth, some he recognized from school, others maybe involved in baser activities. A twinge of anxiety sidled into his execution but soon morphed into a stronger core of conviction. "What do you want?" he called out, his voice firm yet steady, the question echoing around the park. The leader chuckled, the sound dripping with disdain. "What makes you think you can reason with us? You think we care about your little community talks?" Before the shadows could lash out with anger, Ethan shot back, "We're not here to cause trouble. We're looking for a solution." He felt the warmth of Mia and the others behind him, their echoes reinforcing his strength. "They are your community too. This is bigger than you or me. People are suffering. Why wouldn't you want to be part of the solution?" A skeptical look flashed on the leader's face. "You really think hugging it out will fix our problems?" "Not hugging," Ethan said quickly, his voice breaking through the heat of the moment. "Conversations, real conversations, working together to change the narrative, not fighting for scraps. We're inviting you to something different. A chance for every voice to be heard without fear of judgment. Will you join us?" Before he could finish, the tension in the air became palpable, and the leader glanced over at his friends, doubt casting shadows across their faces. "Mia," Jake urged softly. "Perhaps this is where you should shine. Show them it's not just talk." Mia stepped forward confidently, carrying the torch of hope. "Understand that we've all been hurt, but anger will only lead to more pain. We can do better together." Ethan held his breath, waiting, hoping for the deciding moment where anger would give way to clarity. Finally, the leader shifted his stance, uncertainty splintering his bravado. "You really think it matters? This crowd? This?" "It does matter," Ethan pressed, sensing the heart of their battle. Were these cracks as fragile as they were pivotal? "Today we stand together. Tomorrow we fight for change. You can help us break the cycle." The murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd behind him. Slowly, the growing swelling of voices transformed into a chorus. The figure in the dark took a step forward, catching Ethan's eye. He found it on the tip of his tongue, hoping, daring to reach out. "Are we really going to let our anger win? Let us find our strength." A moment of quiet hung in the air, and Ethan held his breath as he sensed the potential shift. The tension lurched between groups, unfurling possibilities, unearthed by conversation. One of the shadows shifted with a reluctant sigh, breaking the silence. "You guys are serious, huh?" "Yeah," Jake affirmed, taking a step forward, tone earnest. "But we need you to join us. We want to listen, and we want every voice in our community to matter. Let us not waste this opportunity," Ethan added, heart pounding in his chest. "Let us stand together against this anger. This is a time for healing." After a few long seconds, an incredulous glance passed between the young gatherers. "Fine, I guess we'll give it a shot," the leader muttered, shrugging as if to shake off years of reflexive animosity. Ethan's heart soared. Elation erupted within him like firework sparks igniting the sky, illuminating the faces around him filled with determination. They had shifted the tide, just a little. The confrontation became a connectivity bridge of shared vulnerabilities instead of another divide. "Let us rally together, and show that anger doesn't overtake us," Mia urged, encouraging each person to contribute their expression. Together, they began to revise the narrative, reframing anger into hope, echoing laughter amidst discomfort. For the first time, perceptions flashed and softened, realizing they were all entwined in the tapestry of their community. As the night deepened, their voices fed off one another, not for fighting but for healing. The shadows dissipated, not into oblivion but into connection and resilience. In that moment, they learned that change doesn't come easy, it's crafted with hands interlocked. Today would be the spark, but tomorrow awaited their action. With that, they forged ahead, committed to meet the challenge head-on, ready to transform anger into lasting peace for the town they called home. This was just the beginning. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to feed the algorithm like now to show you care. And I want to hear from you. Comment below and share your reactions to this powerful ending. This is the moment to show your support.